Woof woof! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka the Maddogg, and it's the beginning of the month, so you know that can mean only one thing. You are watching Whale Watch. This is a series that I like to do once a month where I check in, we record my screen, and we go through some of the books that I think might be going out of print, some of the books that I don't think you have to worry about, and some offers that you might not be aware of. And fair warning, just before we get into this video, I am completely off my tits on pre-workout. Yep, I've had a double scoop of ABE just before I did legs. I'm still feeling the side effects for it, so I don't have a clue how this video is going to go, but I've got the screen recording. I'm going to change up a few things as well, because before we even get into any of the books, we're at that stage now where it seems to be the case that I've kind of mentioned everything that I really need to. Some of the ones that I've been warning you about from episode 1 have actually gone out of print, and I don't really want it to be the case that I'm always just treading water and bringing up the same books to you. So throughout the month, I've had some of you message me on either videos or Instagram, and you've asked me about certain books and if I think they're going to go out of print, or it might even be the case that I'm going to go over some books that I was wrong about in previous episodes. By no means am I perfect, and you know, yes, I'd like it if you'd call me that, but I don't believe that I am anyway, so this is just something from one fan of comic books to another. I'd hate it if you missed out on some books that you did actually want, and I always get the feeling that it's better to get a book whilst it's in print, even if it's not the absolute cheapest it's always been, rather than watch it go out of print. You had that warning, but you never took the action, and now it's stupidly overpriced. I know some people disagree with that methodology, but if you're not one of those people, then this video is definitely for you, and we're just going to jump right into it. Now, one book series that we've been talking about for a while is these Alien Deluxe editions. So these were published by Dark Horse, and you've got this one, the black one, you've got the blue one, and you've got the Alien vs Predator one as well. Now these have been steadily keeping in stock for the last bit of time, but one thing that I have noticed is that recently there's been a stealth sort of stock of the Predator book coming across, so don't worry, we're not treading water straight away, there is actually some news here. So you might be looking at this and going, that's not cheap at all, it's not even cover price, but what I did see a few days ago was that Waterstones, a UK publisher, did actually have some of these in stock ready to ship within 24 hours. Might not be the case now, we're just going to have a look anyway, but the fact of the matter was that these were in stock just a few days ago. Now it is currently unavailable, but trust me, it was literally a few days ago that these were back in stock and they had them ready to ship, and I had a friend who messaged me and he told me that it was available and his had already shipped, so they did have them. So I don't know if it's the case that there's a stealth reprint of these, because I know that there was for the Alien books. So what I'd recommend is keep an eye on this. I'm going to talk to you at the end about how you can keep an eye on books, which hopefully will be helpful for some of you, so stick around to the end for that one. But yeah, the Predator book was actually in stock for cover price at Waterstones, and hopefully it might be cropping up in a few other places as well. Now another one that's going a bit sketchy is the Incorruptable Omnibus. Now this is the sister series to Irredeemable, an omnibus of which we've already talked about, because you know, Amazon finally got a few stock of it, but it seems to be the case that they aren't really keeping that much, and there isn't really too many places. Book Depositories had it from the beginning, and I think they are one of the only people that actually has stock of the Incorruptible Omnibus at the moment. Now for me, if you were worried about the Irredeemable Omnibus, you're probably going to be worried about the Incorruptible Omnibus as well, because they're twin series, so you can't really have one without the other. A lot of people have said Incorruptible isn't anywhere near as good as Irredeemable, so I get that that's a factor that people might consider, but the fact of the matter is you might want both of these. So don't sleep on Incorruptible because of the fact that Irredeemable's going weird in its stock. I'm just going to check on Book Depository for you to see if they've still got it. Not much shy of cover price there, you're saving 30 pence, mad savings. Yeah, but it's available to be shipped in 4 business days, less than cover price, and if you knew about the Irredeemable Omnibus kind of palaver that was going on, you would know that it was the case that it was quite difficult to actually get. Anything below cover price for these two books is fine. You're getting the entire series within just like 2 massive books. To me, that's amazing. Like, you can't really fault it. You've got over about 60 issues for just about under 60 quid. You can't really complain too much at that, and that's me talking. I complain about everything. But one thing that I did want to make you aware of as well, like I said, I can see here that they've got the Irredeemable Omnibus. You might not have known this, but I've been saying it for weeks. I just really want to prove that I'm right, but the East of West Year 2 finally has come back in print. Now yeah, it says that Amazon's only got one left in stock, but this has cropped up everywhere again, so I don't know if it was just like one lonely batch that's coming out. I don't know if they're going to do a second restock in time for Year 3. Makes sense to me, but the fact of the matter is you don't have to pay those stupid prices for the East of West Apocalypse Year 2, and I finally managed to get my hands on this one as well. But if you look just, you know, middle of August, you've got £271 for a new copy. Its highest literally just a month or so ago, it was at £441, so do not sleep on the East East of West Year 2, because Year 3, I believe, is the final book, so you don't want it to be the case that you sleep on it yet again and you completely miss out on these series. It's weird with Image. It's sort of up to the creator if and when they want to publish books and get more stock of it. So that's why stuff like The Walking Dead, Invincible, and the majority of Robert Kirkman books are always in stock because of the fact that Robert Kirkman wants to keep them in print. For others, they do have to kind of weigh up, you know, the cost compared to how much profit they can make, if it'll sell or if it's just going to sit on a shelf. So with other publishers, especially, East of West is quite known within the comic community, but I don't really think it's known within the wider comic community. So it's one of them books that I'm not really too sure how much of a lifespan it's going to have after the fact that it's already finished. So if you want the East of West, you can roughly get all 3 books for a pretty decent price now, and I wouldn't really be spending too much time sleeping on them. Like I said, as soon as it came back in stock, I jumped on it. Now, another one, I mentioned the Revival books last month, and I know I said I'm not going to tread water, and it seems like I'm just constantly treading water, but a few of these books now are just slowly dropping in price, but the only place that you can really find them is at Amazon. So there's quite a decent price at the minute for Volume 4, which I believe it was Streaker who said that, you know, he was struggling to find Volume 4 for a cheap price. There's only 2 left in stock, and it seems like there isn't many places that are actually selling it. And one thing I just want to quickly mention, I think it was in last month's video, again, I'm kind of like in my pre-workout zone, so can't really remember too much, not really sure what my name is right now, but I remember that I mentioned about a company called M&N, like shipping, and I said that, you know, they've always got quite a low price, but the postage and shipping is so drastic that it doesn't really warrant buying it. Like, it's stupidly overpriced once you factor in that postage. A lot of people have told me that you've had issues when you've bought from that company in the past, books come in damaged and they won't really do anything about it. So I've never used them before. I wasn't endorsing them at all last month. I was literally just using them as a barometer to say that this book might be going out of print, but it might fool you by thinking about the price that they actually put up, but not without the postage factored in. That's all I was saying about that company. I've never used them. I've heard a lot of bad things, but you never know, you might also be somebody that's had a bit of luck with them. I can't endorse them for good or bad. Now, one thing that I said I wanted to mention was books that I brought up in the previous months that have just seemed to have come back in stock, one of which was Before Watchmen. Now, yeah, Amazon's run out of stock of it, but oh, okay, maybe I was right about that one. I saw this cropping up on Speedy Head because there's another book that I'm going to mention in a moment. Jesus Christ, was I actually right about a book? It looks like Before Watchmen's actually gone out of print, unfortunately. I'm not celebrating that. I was right! Like, this is really fun. I should do this more often. Yeah, Before Watchmen, if you remember last month, it had about 45% off, so now it seems to be the case that can't really get it many other places. Let's see if we can find it for you somewhere else. So maybe it was the case that now you've got that remorse that you didn't get it at the time. I'm not sure if more copies of these are coming out, so you have to take everything I say with a little pinch of salt. Like I said, I'm just one fan trying to help other fans out in case it is the case that you want any of these books. On eBay, you're looking at about £140. Jesus Christ, that went out of print quick. But another book that I mentioned that seemed to have got a bit more stock across the way was the Batman 66 Omnibus. Now, I get the feeling that companies seem to wait until I do this video so that I can look like an absolute idiot when I say that these books are now looking like they're going out of print or something like that. So it might be the case that this doesn't last too much longer. This might be the last batch that we get across, because this time last month I was saying Before Watchmen, and yeah, I'm going to keep banging on about it. I was finally right about something, but I reckon Batman 66, I don't know, like more of a lifespan that one has as well. It's a beautiful book, I absolutely love it, but it could still be the case that it might not really be keeping stock well. It might be difficult to move and stuff like that. So the cheapest you can get is Amazon Spain for about £67. But yeah, maybe it was the case that you really wanted this book. I wouldn't really wait around too much longer. It's pretty decent price where it is at the moment. Books Etc. had it for about 50% off, but obviously they have to have the stock of that. But that was another one that I mentioned last month that I wasn't really too correct about. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm just trying to help you guys get a better deal or to not miss out on a book that maybe you really wanted. But we're going to jump into some DC books now, and this was one that I brought because I noticed that it was kind of fizzling here, there and everywhere, and that is the Deathstroke, the New 52 Omnibus. Now, if you look, there's only 3 places that have got it at the moment. None of them are selling below cover price. That's that one that we just mentioned with the jacked up postage charge. It's full price on Amazon, which that was a warning sign for me with Gotham Central, but I just couldn't justify buying it for that price. But if you look, literally end of last month it was about £31 new. This is a book that's always been quite decently priced, but I never hear anybody talking about it, and that's something that worries me about a book going out of print. Let's be realistic, nobody was really talking about Gotham Central Omnibus until it went out of print, and that was in print for about 4 years, but now all of a sudden everybody wants it just because of the fact it's out of print. I'm not saying that Deathstroke is on the same level in terms of quality or anything like that when it comes to, like, you know, comparing it to Gotham Central, but all I'm saying is that the warning signs that were there for Gotham Central are here for Deathstroke. But let's see again if we can find you anywhere that's selling this for quite a decent price. Like, I'm going to do my best for you. Hopefully you're enjoying this video. If you are, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, there's a button down below. It really helps. Hey, Books, let's see what they're doing. It says it's used. Who's it from? Books to Anywhere. I think they aren't actually located in the UK. I've seen a few places do this where they're actually shipping from America, but they say that they're in the UK, and it's like, oh no, we have a base in the UK. It's just that this book specifically didn't ship from there. And it's like, oh great. So that's why I'm waiting 3 weeks for a book now. Yeah, pre-workout puts me on the edge. But that's another one that if you want it, it might be the case that it's slowly fizzling out of print. I can't really see it getting that much stock anymore because, like I said, nobody's really talked about that book, which is for me one of the warning signs that when a book starts going up in price, fewer and fewer places are actually having it in stock. For me, it's worrying because of the fact that if it goes out of print, there might not be that much faith for DC to publish another batch. Like, if they will allow Gotham Central to go out of print, they will allow Deathstroke to go out of print. Now, another one, a sleeper hit that I think a lot of people might be disappointed about if a few months from now it goes out of print, is this one right here. It came out last August, and that is Grayson the Super Spy Omnibus. This has been quite cheap for a long amount of time. I think Books Etc. still, yeah, Books Etc. still got it, so if you go directly to their website. But for me, I can see the Grayson Omnibus just disappearing out of print. One of them that, you know, maybe a few months from now, someone might show it on a shelf and you might go, oh shit, yeah, I forgot to buy that one. You might look for it out of print. I could 100% see that happening with this one, but you can get it for pretty much half price from Books Etc. if you go there directly. I'd recommend doing that if I was you and you wanted the book. If you don't want the book, that's fine, but it's still keeping its stock here, there and everywhere. It's just that I get the feeling that the writing's on the wall for this one. Now let's see what other places are selling it. Okay, so it's literally Books Etc. and Amazon that seem to actually have this book in stock, but like I said, something about this one just makes me think that it could disappear, especially with that upcoming Nightwing, the new 52 Omnibus. That could drum up a lot of hype for Nightwing, and people might go, oh shit, Grayson came out after the new 52 one, and people might end up wanting this because of the fact that that new 52 Omnibus might sell well. That's just my theory. Obviously, I can only really predict these kinds of things, and there's some books that go out of print that you just never thought there was any buzz about. Speaking of books that I never thought there was any buzz about, there is the Batman Arkham Saga Omnibus thing. It was originally £120. Jesus Christ, that's a whammy boy. 1,600 pages. But yeah, this is one that I get another feeling about because Books Etc. seem to have it. And like I said, if you go directly on the website, it might be cheaper. But in America, I've heard a few people saying that this is disappearing here and there. That price is slowly creeping up as well, which isn't really a great sign. But it does look as if it's still healthily available at the moment. But I've heard rumblings that people are struggling to find this if it is they want it. Now, this hasn't had the same buzz about it in a similar way to something like Injustice has, which, you know, is another comic series based on the video games, and I haven't really heard great things about it, but I get the feeling that the Batman Arkham Saga probably won't see it into 2021. Again, could be wrong. It might end up in a future segment of books that I was completely wrong about. But yeah, I can't see the Batman Arkham Saga having that much of a lifespan left in it. And I know that's a phrase I've been using a lot already in this video. It's because my brain can't really patch together sentences as well as it usually does. But I say this towards the beginning of most videos, and I want to say it again. This video series is not about driving up any fear or missing out. If you don't want this book and you're hearing it's going out of print, don't buy it. If it's not the case that you want that book on your shelf, there is no need for you to spend your hard-earned money just for the fact that you're worried it might go out of print. This video series is solely so that people don't miss out on books that maybe they forgot about or maybe they thought they had a little bit more time with. I don't like the fear of missing out culture. I'm going to talk about it like I said at the end, but for me, I just want to do this video series so that people don't miss out on books in a similar way that I did when I was younger. Now, another Batman book that people asked me about, and by people I mean one person, is the Batman by Grant Morrison Omnibuses, because I normally say that if future volumes are coming out, don't worry about the previous volumes. I completely can't spell today, but somebody's asked me, should you be worried about these Batman by Grant Morrison Omnibuses now for the fact that all three are out? For me personally, if I knew that all three volumes were out complete, I'd just buy them because of the fact that, you know, what's your excuse not to get them? If they're healthily priced, you know, I think Books Etc.'s got this one quite cheap. Yeah, that's going to be about £30 if you go directly on the website. If you can get all 3 volumes for a healthy price, there's no excuse to not get them if you really wanted them. Obviously, if your finances are tough, you've probably still got a month or 2 in it, but for me, I think Grant Morrison and Batman are 2 massive names that DC knows will always pretty much sell. I'm going to talk about some of his other books, but for the most part, besides the exception of something like Animal Man, you know, it seems to be the case that they have a lot of faith in Grant Morrison books. With it just being the case that Batman by Grant Morrison Omnibus Volume 3 came out, I think this is going to be in stock for quite a bit of time. Now, we've obviously seen about the Omnipocalypse, you know, every time an omnibus is coming out, especially on in-stock trades, it just completely goes out of print and you can't get it for weeks on end, so people keep ending up jacking up the prices and panic buying, and it's all just one big palaver. I think if there's one book that you are pretty much safe with, it's going to be this one. You don't really have to worry about Volume 3 for a little bit of time. Because of the fact that it's such a big name, I don't think it's going to have a limited print one. And you know, it might be the case that you do just want to buy all 3. That's personally what I'd recommend doing if you did want them, because if you've got the money, you want them, you'd rather just buy them than be disappointed if they did actually go out of print. Like I said, I've got no kind of insider knowledge, so for me, I would recommend just getting them if you wanted them. But if it was the case that you've already got other books that maybe you're worried about, I think you can put Batman by Grant Morrison on the back burner for a little bit. So whoever it was who asked me about that book, hopefully that's put your mind at ease a little bit. One that I noticed has gone weird though when we talk about Volume 3s is Wonder Woman by George Perez. Not even necessarily the first 2 volumes, although if it looks like they are cropping up in price as well. It was this one, Volume 3. Now, yeah, there are a few places that are selling it, especially for a decent enough price. Have we got any good ones? Speedy Hen's got it. I really like Speedy Hen. I mentioned them in my haul because they had an amazing 20% off sale at one point. But yeah, it looks like it's quite healthily in stock at the minute. I've had to order this from America because it was about 46% off. You know, it's quite cheap. But the thing is, if you notice, it sort of shoots between being a bit overpriced and then dropping. So being overpriced, dropping. Being overpriced, dropping. Being overpriced, dropping, dropping. With Wonder Woman, it's weird because I don't have a fucking clue what DC's doing when it comes to this character, because of the fact that Wonder Woman is now a household name. She always pretty much was, but now she really is. And she's got a future upcoming movie, but the thing is, this War of the Gods omnibus has made me go into question about if they're gonna keep the standard volumes 1, 2 and 3 by Perez, you know, in print, because that was the event that takes over, I believe. Someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong anyway. I think it was Volume 3 is mainly War of Gods. I haven't read the full thing yet. If it is the case that you want these, or maybe you've got Volume 1 and you're waiting on some of the later ones. Another one that I recently picked up, and I know a lot of people don't like this omnibus, like I said in my haul, because of the fact that there isn't later volumes of it. This is Red Hood and the Outlaws Volume 1. Now, again, it is a bit weird because it's sort of like an orphan book, but you can get it at Books Etc., so it's probably going to be about half price there. But for me, this has been in print for quite a while, nearly 2 years now, and it's not got a lot of buzz. It's not got that second and subsequent volumes that, you know, people were probably hoping for. So for me, I think it might be the case that Red Hood and the Outlaws might slowly go out of print, unfortunately. I don't think too many of you are going to be upset about that. And again, with DC, if it is the case that they do later do sequel volumes to this, I think they will put Volume 1 back in print. But for me, I noticed that that was slowly going out of stock here, there and everywhere as well. It always seems to be the case that just before I film Whale Watch, or just before I upload Whale Watch, they always seem to get more stock of the book that I said I'd be a little bit worried about. One that got requested to me, and one that I can actually tell you a story in relation to, is the new Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 1. Now, I got asked if this looks like it's going out of print. I believe it was in the comments of the last Whale Watch. Do not worry about any of these Teen Titans volumes. So since you asked me, look, we've already had a batch of stock. So Books Etc.'s got it for £46, so it's going to be cheaper on their website. Wordery's got it, Book Depository's got it, Blackwell's got it. Doesn't look like Speedy Hen or anything like that's got it. But they already have plans for volumes 5 and 6 of the new Teen Titans. I think this is an omnibus line that they really want people to buy from the beginning. And I can't really blame them, but the story that I'm going to tell you is like a cautionary tale to not worry about is because of Volume 2. Now, I panic bought Volume 2 because of the fact that I noticed that Amazon had skyrocketed the price up to £60, and you know, it's just getting really difficult to, you know, buy it. I'm gonna have to sign out because it's always got my old address on, and I don't live there. So if any of you hate me, you know, you're gonna end up sending hate mail to a place where I don't even live anymore. The New Teen Titans Volume 2 was a book that I worried about. I panic bought it. I ended up paying more than this right here. I did that, and then all of a sudden it just came back in print everywhere, and it's probably about half price of book. Yeah, Books Etc. They probably have it even less than that if you go on their website. I even remember emailing Books Etc. saying like, are you gonna get any more copies of the New Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 2? And they were like, we don't know. And it's like, okay, cool. Less than half price. Amazing that is. So yeah, with the New Teen Titans Omnibus, with the fact that they have those subsequent volumes planned out, I wouldn't worry about them if I was you. If you've got the money for them though, and you do really want them, it's probably better to start buying them now because of the fact that there's going to end up being at least 6 volumes, maybe even a few more. So I would recommend, you know, slowly starting to build them in a way that I'm doing with the Berserk Deluxe editions, because, you know, you don't want to be the case that it ends up being about 8 volumes, all priced about £30 to £40 each, because that's quite an investment to drop on there and then. So if you do steadily buy them, even if they go out of print or, you know, maybe they're short on stock, you're never really going to miss out. Another that I want to talk about, I know we've mentioned Grant Morrison a few times, I think I might have even mentioned this book a few times, but the Invisibles Omnibus, I've noticed, isn't really keeping stock in that many places. So Where's got it, Book Depository's got it, all of them are reputable places, and you can see that Amazon has it as well. This book's been in print since 2012. That just kind of sends me for a bit of a loop, because it's like, well, maybe it's been in print that long that they know that anybody who wants it in 8 years would probably have it, but they might also go, this is that steady of a seller that we can always keep it in print. But if you look at all the Amazons, we are the cheapest in Amazon.co.uk. Now, I also noticed that this was a book that I ordered from Speedy Hen from their eBay page, and I've noticed as well, fun tip for you, if you're going to order from Speedy Hen, check their eBay page first, because sometimes they are cheaper on there than they actually are on their own website sometimes. Throughout this last month, because of the fact that I wanted to buy this, I noticed that this was going a little bit sketchy here and there. It's an absolutely massive book, I'm not going to lie. This book could kill a human being if you dropped it on them. Yeah, it's over half price. Now, if you want this book, what on earth are you waiting for? If you've got the money, if you're financially in a good position to buy it, you are probably not going to get better than 52% off, especially for it new. Books Etc. rarely do codes, but they often go out of stock when it comes to books like these. So just buy it if you want it. That's cheaper than I've recently paid for it. So I'm going to question my life a little bit here. But for me, this is one of them that I don't really know if it is going to go out of print or if it's always going to keep in stock. It's just one of them sort of have it on your radar and maybe jump on it if it is a book that you've wanted for a while. We're going to jump into a few Marvel books now. The first one that I want to talk about hasn't even really come out over here just yet, but this is going to be the Absolute Carnage Omnibus, which I've said this joke before. In America, this caused absolute carnage. This caused absolute carnage in America. Everybody suddenly wants it when there was no buzz about it before. With these event omnibuses, especially with them being sort of like a new thing that Marvel's trying to do, you know, Absolute Carnage only recently finished, so they're kind of experimenting when it comes to how they handle their event omnibuses. We don't know if this is going to have a big print run, but the fact of the matter is, I've seen some places, such as Cheap Comics, saying that the Absolute Carnage Omnibus is out of print and already charging over cover price. Now, I like this place for the most part. They tend to have quite good sales on and stuff like that, but they do like to claim a book's out of print when it isn't, and they tend to jack the price up. And the Absolute Carnage Omnibus seems to be the newest in that trend. This book has barely had a chance to go anywhere. Like, I think Marvel is now listening, they're getting a little bit wiser, and they're understanding that if a book's selling out immediately on release day, follow it up and bring out a few more, because it might end up being the case that you're better off pre-ordering some of your books now. This has already gone out of stock, they're already charging slightly over cover price. That's still a decent price, especially when you compare it to the Cheap Comics website that's double that. These brand new releases, these releases that have literally just come straight off the production line, I wouldn't worry too much about, because they're not going to end up being like limited releases that if you don't pre-order them you're never going to get them. And like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about the end, about the kind of like omni-crisis we're dealing with at the moment, because I think it's a case that we are driving up this issue for ourselves. And yeah, I'm guilty of it. This show might end up accidentally causing a little bit of fear of missing out, which, even though it's never my intention, if it's the case that that happens as a result of it, I still have to take a little bit of responsibility for that. Where I can, I am going to tell you to not worry about certain books, and I think the Absolute Carnage Omnibus is definitely going to be one of them, especially when you factor in the case that there is going to be a second volume of Donny Cates's Venom. Because because I believe Absolute Carnage happens somewhere around this one. I'm not too sure. So for me, why would it be the case that Marvel's going to print this second volume of Donny Cates's Venom, which I've read the first volume of? It's fucking amazing, I'm not gonna lie. And then leave out the event that most people would want in the middle. Marvel wants to make money. That's what a lot of people don't realise. Like, companies aren't being stingy and taking books out of print just to play with us. Marvel is a company, Marvel is a business. They want people to buy their books. If it's the case between they have to print a few more but get more profit, or they have to see other people scalping it online for double the price, they're gonna end up just printing a few more. So with these ones that tend to go out of stock on release day, I really just would not worry. Like, I've got Absolute Carnage on pre-order already with Amazon itself, so I'm not too worried. If it gets to about October, November and none have come across again, maybe that's when I'm going to mention it and maybe we'll have this on your alert. But please don't spend double cover price on this book whilst we don't even know what the situation is with the stock levels. Another one that I mentioned in, I believe, the first one, because I just feel like it's been in stock for way too long for a book that no one talks about, is this one right here, Deadpool by Posehn and Dugan. Now the reason why I want to mention it is because it's not really keeping stock in that many places. It's been in print since 2016, so it's coming up to 4 years. Some people will be relieved to hear this has sort of faded in his popularity. Like, the films aren't coming out, and look, it looks like we're the cheapest one there. Let's see if anywhere else has got this. I think this is used, this one for £40. Yeah, so there's a used one for £40. If that's your eBay page, I hope you sell it, mate. That's quite a decent price. Yeah, you can still get this for sort of undercover price, but it's steadily creeping up. Now, Amazon's got it at quite a healthy enough price, 33% off. If this goes out of stock, I don't know if it's going to get another print, especially with the case that we don't really know what's happening with the Deadpool movies. So that's one that I've mentioned to you before. I'm going to mention it to you again. Maybe just keep that one on your radar. Now, one that I want to bring up, because I don't want any of you guys panicking if you haven't already heard the news, the Uncanny Omar, our Lord and Saviour himself, mentioned that there is going to be pretty much a stealth reprint of the Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1 by J. Michael Straczynski. So, as you can see here, yeah, it is currently out of print. They've actually got this one correct. And they're charging overcover price. I've seen people buying this for overcover price. I saw somebody buy this the other day for about that price on one of the groups that I'm in, before they announced that this reprint was going to come. And I had the feeling that it might come, especially with the fact that there's been so many issues with Volume 2. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because of that book that I just mentioned, Volume 2. Now, you don't want it to be the case in a similar way to what happened with Annihilation and Annihilation Conquest. Now, a lot of people slept on Annihilation Conquest because of the fact that Annihilation went out of print so quickly. I was one of those that I got the feeling that one day I'd get a copy of Annihilation, so I brought Conquest, Road to War of Kings, and Realm of Kings, brought them all waiting for that reprint or to just chance on a copy. But then by the time that that reprint came out for Annihilation, even though Annihilation Conquest had been liquidated, they'd tried everything to sell it off, it'd been in stock for years, just completely disappeared. Spider-Man, yes, admittedly, is a much bigger name than someone like Annihilation or Nova or anything like that, so you might not have to worry too much. But for me, I think Volume 1 coming back in print could effectively tip that seesaw so that Volume 2 goes out of print, because you know Sod's Law, we've talked about this before, or the thing that you don't do will always cause the action that you didn't want to happen. So I don't want it to be the case that you are then stuck and you can't get this full thing. So it looks like Amazon's got it in stock at the moment. They're the only place that seems to be selling it, but it does seem like it's stepping up quite a bit there, only 19% off. So you don't want it to be the case that Volume 1 comes back in print and you can't get Volume 2. So maybe that's one that should be on your radar if it is that you're waiting for that Volume 1 reprint. Now you know what time it is. It's time for Chi Check. This is a part of the video where we check on our boy Shang-Chi. You may or may not know, but the ShangChi Omnibuses are only rumoured to get one print. Now we have been checking once a month until these go out of print. Now Volume 1's been a bit sketch already. This is going to be that M&S. Yep, so you can't get that for undercover price, but those later volumes, maybe you can chance on a Shang-Chi in the wild. I know a lot of comic shops like to buy Volume 1 just in case. You can still get Volume 3 for just about half price. Books Etc. do have it though, so that'll be cheap on the website. I think you can get Volume 2 from there as well. They're the cheapest as well for it. Volume 4 seems to have stepped up a bit in price, so it seems that Volume 4 is now the one that you should be looking out for. And let's look at the sister series, the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. Looks like it's not in stock anywhere, going for over cover price already. Hopefully you don't get one that leans like mine, but you can get volume 2. So that might be the case if there's any of these books that you want. Sometimes you have to sort of Frankenstein your collection together, so you might have to buy a volume 3, hope that you can get a volume 2 later on, rather than it being the case that they all go out of print and then you can get none of them. But the ShangChi Omnibuses, we've been talking about them for a while now. If you haven't already dropped on them and you want them, drop on them. Admittedly, I've been yo-yoing with this next book, the She-Hulk Omnibus, because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, it's healthily in stock. Oh, it doesn't look like it's in stock at all. For some reason, there's only one seller of this at the moment. Now, I know a second batch came out, especially after I bought it for near enough full price. But for me, it seems to be the case that the She-Hulk Omnibus is just disappearing over our side. That's a much better price than I paid for it, so jump on it there. But there doesn't seem to be that many third-party sellers that have it. So Read Comics have got it, so that does prove that we did have that sort of stealth reprint. But for me, I keep yo-yoing on this one. Bottom line is, if you want it and you can afford it for that price, and you want it for that price, even though it's quite a thin omnibus, just buy, save yourself the hassle, save yourself the nightmare in case it does go out of print. Another one that was meant to have come out at the same time but still doesn't seem to have made its way across to the UK except for with the direct market is the Uncanny XMen Omnibus Volume 1. I've had to buckle and I'm waiting for this to be delivered from Amazon America. Jesus, Amazon America just doesn't have it anymore. But one thing that I did hear during Omar's stream, I'm not sure if I misheard him, but they are going to be bringing out more copies of the Uncanny XMen Omnibus Volume 1 in, I believe, November. So if it is the case that you are holding off on those future volumes when they come out, you might still be able to drop on them and buy them. And even with that in effect, like the Uncanny XMen Omnibus Volume 1, even whilst it was technically out of print, you could still find it from, you know, random people selling it here and there for undercover. It was all these volumes 2 and 3 that I noticed had difficulty staying in stock. So I never really saw an issue with many people trying to get Volume 1. This book's been in print, I think, since 2016, and it's had about 4 or 5 printings if I'm remembering correctly. It was always volumes 2 and 3 that were struggles. So if it is the case that you can get volumes 2 and 3 when they do come out, but you still haven't had a chance to get this volume 1 reprint, I wouldn't exactly shy away from buying those volumes 2 and 3, because I think you might eventually be able to get a volume 1 anyway. But as well, like I said, there is meant to be more stock coming across, hopefully so because of the fact that none have made it across to the UK, or I believe the EU in general. If you're like me and you live in the UK or the EU, I feel your pain, I really do. Like, it's been so difficult these last couple months. Another one that I believe I just saw was the Black Widow Omnibus, because if you go onto Cheap Comics, you will see that they are already saying that this book is out of print. Yeah, they're already saying it's out of print, but for me, I think you can actually get this in stock at Amazon. It's available, and for me, anyone that's saying that this is out of print, I would wait until the film comes out, because this is going to be Marvel's sort of next big hit. Because of the fact that there hasn't been a Marvel film in so long, I know that Marvel are waiting until they know that they can definitely get as many people as they can into the cinema, especially with how badly that Mulan film did. You know, breaks me heart, but it is what it is. But for me, I would not worry about the Black Widow Omnibus, because when that film comes out, they are going to need some kind of omnibus for people to go to. So with it being the case that this film just keeps getting pushed back and keeps getting pushed back, I think that this book will be available by the time that film comes out, or it's going to be a massively missed opportunity. But a lot of people seem to be buying an omnibus just because of the fact it's an omnibus now. Whereas for me, this is in that similar vein to that Punisher book, Punisher Back to the War, and there was a few others that are just like a collection of the first stories of that character. So unless it is that you're an absolutely massive Black Widow fan, it might be the case that you might want to sleep on this book anyway, because of the fact that you're not really going to get a complete story, and it's coming at a time when they haven't even figured that character out. These omnibuses are so that people can sort of look at the root of that character, see how they were originally introduced. You know, if you get a little bit of a kick out of that, like I did with the Punisher book, because it's like, oh yeah, he was a Spider-Man villain, that's kind of weird, whereas you see him now as the Punisher. These books aren't really going to be for you anyway, so don't be an idiot who just buys an omnibus because of the fact that it says omnibus. Like, you can spend that 60 quid much better. You can get that Invisibles Omnibus, which is probably about twice the page count of this one. Yeah, it's over twice the page count of this one, so I wouldn't worry too much. If you're going to buy a Black Widow book, I'd buy this one right here, the Black Widow by Wade and Somney Complete Collection. I've read the first bit of this because it was on like a Marvel sale when lockdown began. That's a book that you should be getting if it is that you want a Black Widow story. This is another one that I want to talk about. It is an omnibus, and I noticed recently that this has come in stock. Books Etc. had it for near enough half price, so I jumped face first onto this one. The Grand Design series has been great, and now it's in like a normal format size, even though it's oversized. I've seen people, and by people I mean cheap comics, saying that this was already out of print. They're saying it's out of print, and they're also charging nearly 150% of the price of what Books Etc. has it for. Whether Books Etc. has actually got it in stock or they're just saying it is a different thing, but look, there is stock across here in the UK. So if it is that you want this book, don't buy any stupid overinflated price, but I'd recommend jumping on it because I don't really know what the print one's going to be like on this. It's not one of them massive names. It hasn't even been labelled properly as an omnibus, even though it is one, so this is one that might end up being a sleeper hit. So if you want it, I'd grab it sooner rather than later. Now I've spent enough time slagging off cheap comics, so I'm going to show them some praise because they got a book that I'm not even sure what this book is. Don't quote me on if it's good or not. But they had the Squadron Supreme Classic Omnibus, which was out of print for a little bit of time. That's over half price. So if you want this book, if you actually know what this book is, definitely recommend jumping on it. Now, an omnibus that's just been around for ages. We all know that X-Men omnibuses don't really tend to stay in print that well. It's the X-Men Classic Omnibus. Now, this has been in print since 2017, and I believe that this was stories that sort of helped with the Uncanny X-Men run. So with those books coming back in stock, we might see like an Annihilation Conquest situation, that the book that nobody wanted ends up being the book that everybody suddenly wants. So I reckon that this is going to be one of those omnibuses that might just disappear in front of your eyes. Now, it is quite available here, there and everywhere. Speedy Hen's got it, and Amazon's got it in stock as well, because of the fact that, yeah, it's X-Men, which is a big selling name, but it's not really like a well-known run. So maybe have a look into this one, see if it's something you want. I'm tempted to get it just for the fact that it's clearly got our boy Colossus quite front and centre, but as well, if you are going to do a read through of the Uncanny X-Men, this might be a book that you'd rather have. So yeah, that's definitely one that I would watch out for. Now, one that I theorised was going out of print, and I've heard other people saying it as well, was the Star Wars by Jason Aaron omnibus, especially when you consider how quickly that Darth Vader omnibus went out of print, and it doesn't seem like it got a stealth reprint or anything like that. I'm surprised that this came back in the way that it did. It seems like you can get stuff like Book Depository, Books Etc.'s got it, Blackwell's, all these quite reputable places, but for a little bit of time this was jumping up in price. Like, look, you couldn't really get it from Amazon for cheap, but it seems like this one's come back in stock, so maybe you forgot to pick that up at the time when it seemed like stock was a bit scarce. So if you wanted the Star Wars by Jason Aaron omnibus, I'd recommend getting it sorted now, just because of the fact that it's back in print for quite a good price. So I wouldn't really sleep on that one, especially with that Dr. Aphra omnibus coming out. It might just be the case that you can't get your hands on it for much longer. You don't want to be the case that one omnibus pushes the other out. Now, the last one that I'm going to show you was one that I intended to show you last month, and that is the Fantastic Four omnibus, but the one by Mark Bagley. Now, you might have seen that I picked this one up. It's out of print, but you can get it for a steady enough price. I bought it from here as well, I believe, this Alias Comics. It came in really good shape, but this is an out of print book that everybody doesn't seem to realise is a little bit out of print, but you can still get it for near enough half cover price. This might be your last chance to get it for a decent price, and you don't want it to be, like I saw it there, you don't want it to be the case it becomes like an Ultimate Spider-Man situation that nobody wanted it, nobody even wanted it whilst it was out of print and cheap, but then all of a sudden it was really expensive, and you don't want that to be the case. I haven't cracked into this yet, but I've heard some people say it's good. That's the last one that I'm going to help you to find if it is that you wanted that to begin with. So I said I'd do this at the beginning of the video, and miraculously I managed to remember that. I was going to tell you how I keep track of books, because hopefully this will help you if it is that there's any specific books that you really want. Now, I have this thing called Keeper. You've probably seen me using it in a lot of my videos. It helps you to track the price of Amazon books, and you can also compare the international prices. This is a Chrome add-on. I don't know if there's anything similar for phone. Like, I try my best to give you as much information as I can, but I don't know everything, so I know it's definitely on Chrome if you use a computer and stuff like that. It lets you track international prices, but more than anything, it lets you track an individual product. And then once you've tracked a product, you can set limits so that you say, I want you to notify me when this book is at this price. But if you look, like, I'm following quite a few books at the moment, I don't know why I've got that, but yeah, so if you look, like, I've got the Legion of Superheroes 5 Years omnibus, I've got the Mike Grell Green Arrow omnibus, which I know a few people have wanted. It seems like stock's come across, but not too many places have it at the minute. So I'm kind of waiting because that's quite a steep price for me, especially when you see how much I've spent on books already. I've got the JLA by Grant Morrison Omnibus, Batman by Paul Dini Omnibus, Justice League by Brad Meltzer, the Firefly Legacy Deluxe Edition, I have Richard Park's Martini Edition Last Call, Uncanny XMen Omnibus Volume 1, even though I brought it, and then 2 whales, just in case anybody accidentally lists it for less than they should do. So that's one thing that I use, but another thing that I do is on eBay. Now also as well, I have a separate Excel document list of books that I feel like I should be looking out for. You know, maybe I don't have the money to buy it then and there. So I have that, and I actively try and check about once a month, once every 2 weeks. On eBay, they do this thing called saved searches. So some of the books that I want are like the Colossal Conan, Fade Out Deluxe, Ghostbusters Mass Hysteria, and West Coast Avengers Omnibus. Now, some of them have come out at that liquidation price, but it seems like everybody in America's got them, so it's not that great for us over in the UK, because we're pretty much going to pay as much in postage as we might do for the book itself. But those are 2 things that I do to keep track of deals, so I can keep track on if a book might become a whale, or if a whale comes back in stock or anything like that. So I'd recommend doing those 2 things yourself. They are 2 things that really help me to keep on top of things, and as a collector I think it's important that we do that, especially when you've got stuff like I know The Walking Dead's not going out of print, but there's 16 volumes of it. Like, if you're busy trying to pick all them volumes up, you might miss out on another book. So having stuff like Keeper does really help. I can keep them all in one page, see when pre-orders actually come out and get across to you by, you know, judging when like a third-party seller actually lists one for sale. So it's really helpful for stuff like that, and if you're in the UK or the EU, I definitely recommend doing that. But one other thing that I was going to mention is pre-ordering books. Now, I pre-order off Amazon, but there's no guarantee that they will get the book. Now, if you look, they've got quite a lot of the new pre-orders coming out. So you've got those Spider-Man by Roger Stern, Thunderbolts, Defenders, X-Men Inferno, Cap America, Reprint, and other stuff like that. So I normally tend to pre-order as soon as I can, because then you get that pre-order price guarantee. But throughout this pandemic, Amazon hasn't really been getting that stock, and I don't know if this is the new normal moving forward. Obviously I get that COVID-19 is more important than books and stuff like that, or at least that's what I'm supposed to say. But for me, I'm half tempted to start pre-ordering through the direct market. So what I would use if you are in the UK, the 2 that I definitely recommend are Read Comics. So let's have a look at the Captain America Omnibus on there, because you can also get those beautiful variant covers. You do have to pay postage fees, but if you pre-order this, they pretty much only allow for as many pre-orders as there are stock of the book. So I'd recommend Read Comics, or I would recommend Forbidden Planet. Now, Forbidden Planet aren't as good at getting stuff up in a timely manner, and I don't really like their search bar, but I've heard that they are much better when it comes to like postage costs and stuff like that. Like, that's cheaper than Read Comics, but overall I preferred Read Comics. I'm half tempted to get this DM variant just because I love it so much, and selling my original, you know, somebody else can get it for a cheap price, and I can then fund this one. So those are 2 things that I'd recommend, because I know obviously these last couple of months have been really difficult for us UK and EU collectors. It might be the case that moving forward we are better off pre-ordering, and I've seen a lot of American people sharing the same sentiments. Like, they're waiting for IST Tuesday and everything goes out of stock in 3 minutes, and they'll put their order in and they don't even have the stock of it. And I get that it's not really anybody's fault. Like, we're kind of all the enemy at this point, because we've ended up driving up this demand so that places can't really cope with the amount of traffic that's coming through, or the amount of orders that are coming through. But at the same time, because it's happened all of a sudden, even the publishers can't get enough stock out. So it's all kind of like a bit of a vicious circle. So I understand it's difficult for everybody at the minute. I think over the next couple of months we're really going to see what the new normal is when it comes to like omnibuses and stuff like that coming across in the UK. So I think we kind of have to sit tight, which is why I kind of do this Whale Watch show. I hope it's useful for some of you. I know that when I was collecting when I was growing up, this is the show that I would have wanted to have watched, so that I could hopefully, you know, not have to end up chasing so many whales like I have done recently. So that's what it's all about, getting the books before they become a whale. Not spending too much money, but still at the same time building the collection that you want. I've said it before, it's never my intention to drive up any kind of fear of missing out. I never try to give any kind of false information, or never trying to deliberately mislead anyone. Being real, I've had some criticism for Whale Watch, and I've mentioned this before, but I've thought about it and I'm like, What do I get from doing this series? I could just keep it to myself that I think some of these books are going out of print, but I'm trying my best to help everybody in the community and help everybody save a little bit of money, because we've all had to chase a book that costs cover price or even more. So if I can help you save a bit, I'm going to try my best to do that. And like I said, besides watch time, which doesn't really mean anything when you're not monetized anyway, I don't really gain anything from doing these videos. It's solely to help you guys. So I know there's a lot of criticism that does come towards Whale Watch, and you know, I take it on the chin. A lot of you say that this video series does help you, and I'm really pleased about that, and I hope it does just continue to do so. There's always going to be books that I miss. There's always going to be books that maybe I say is going a little bit out of stock and maybe a little bit out of print, and then you know, the next month it shows up again. But like I said, just buy the books that you want, and hopefully you can find them at decent prices. And I'm just hoping that this video series is helpful for a lot of you. As we get into later months, it might be the case that these videos hopefully do get shorter and shorter because of the fact that I've kind of mentioned everything that I probably need to. So it might just be the case, go back and watch some of the older videos. If you haven't done that already, there is going to be a playlist. Hopefully it'll start playing automatically, but I think that's where I'm going to leave the video for this month. Hopefully October is going to be very prosperous for you in terms of whales, in terms of books that you want. I hope you get all the deals. I hope if you're in the UK and EU, we finally get some fucking books across here. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, I know the pre-workouts kind of drove me a bit nutty, I'm not going to lie. Maybe I should keep doing this. Let me know if I've been talking too quick. Like, just let me know what you thought of this video in the comment section below, or if there's any books that you are worried about becoming a whale, or any books that you have seen has become a whale that maybe you want me to highlight in next month. Leave it in the comment section below, or just drop me a message on Instagram. My Instagram's going to be up there, and I'm always trying to put up as much comic content as I can. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't like this video, why did you get this far? Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. I know the last couple of months have been tough, and you know, it's been a bit of a grind, which sometimes that's life, but I am trying my best to get at least 10 videos out during this October, so subscribe for more videos and hopefully you'll enjoy some of them. And if you want to support the channel, I'm not going to ask for a Patreon, or I'm not going to ask for any donations or stuff like that. All I'm going to ask is that you treat yourself to a book, maybe a book that I've mentioned in this Whale Watch, and just use one of the Amazon affiliate links below. If you're struggling to find it, just drop me a message on Instagram and I'll send it across to you. It doesn't affect the price for you, but it does help me to save up for a new camera so that you can see my fucking ugly face and stupid hair in 4K resolution. That's the video. Hopefully there's going to be a few exciting ones coming out in the coming weeks, but until then, just make sure that you stay safe, keep reading, and keep barking all you mad dogs, and I'll see you at the next video.